What's going on, everybody? Another episode of Final Boy Status. Not in the canon, not in the season.
None of this is canonical. By the end of the episode, Adam and I will be married, but it won't be canonical. It'll all be a dream.
Nothing that we say was actually us, so we might say some controversial things, but you can't hold it against us. It's not canon.
It's not part of the series, bro.
It's not part of it. And what that means is we don't have like a specific movie today. We're not doing the normal form. We just have a fun discussion thing that I have set up for us. And we'll talk a little bit about movies just to give you guys some additional content in the dry season. Dry
season.
Yeah, this is going great already.
This podcast is about the grapes of wrath.
Yeah, can we survive the grapes of wrath?
What's eating Gilbert Grape?
I'll tell you what's eating Gilbert Grape.
Do it, Hoots. Do it.
No Hoots.
You can't even see that. They can't see my name on the final recording. They removed that, baby.
Let's help them. Let's introduce each other so we know who the heck we're talking about. I'll start with me. My name is Adam. And I am the host, and I am the voice you can hear, or the face you can see now if you're, watching us, which is a possibility if you didn't know.
You should.
I'm also joined with Luke Haueter.
Or
Luke Haueter.
As I was called at my job for many years.
Is that right? All right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then I also have Lance and Lappin.
Tis I. What's up, guys?
We're the usuals, so hopefully
most regular
of
Joes.
Surprise.
Pretty much, yep.
I don't think I need to explain this because this isn't a normal episode, but if this is your first time watching us, go check out our other content. It's going to be a little bit more structured, make a little more sense. This is a horror movie podcast, but today I'm going to broaden our horizons a little bit. We usually talk about spooky stuff, and it's always spooky season in my mind. But today we're going to just talk about movies a little bit more generally. Today, we're going to talk about controversial movie opinions from the internet.
Ooh.
And we're going to discuss them.
Ooh.
Now, I don't know if anyone's perused Reddit, but whenever you click on something that's like, oh, the most controversial, and you look at the top answers, they're usually not that controversial. It's usually like, yeah, everybody believes that. Yeah. But I got a couple gold nuggets, and we'll talk about our own controversial movie opinions. Yeah, anything anyone wants to say before we dive in? How are you guys? How have you been? It's been a while.
You asked that on like the wildest day you could have asked that, my man.
Is that right?
If we had recorded this yesterday, I'd be like, hey, my life is very normal.
Well, what's about today?
I actually don't want to go in detail.
We don't have
in a public forum.
Yeah, what do you mean, Luke? Come on, bro. The audience needs to know. What's up, Hoots? Tell us.
Okay, look, guys,
Adam, quiet. He's gonna tell us.
Sorry,
guys. I broke my penis, like true blue,
dude.
like jackass style.
Did you split it
like a carrot? Like
I split it like a banana.
Oh dang, dude!
It was awful.
Like it was mushy.
No,
like
banana peel. What are you talking about? Mushy?
Oh.
How do you eat a banana, Adam?
Well, bananas are mushy. I was thinking like as opposed to like a carrot.
He squeezes the banana out of the peel, monkey style.
You break
it's a gusher.
Snap it. It'll squish is what I'm saying.
It's a Gogurt.
I'm not the weird one here. All right. I didn't break my penis.
We're going Gogurt style. Spitters or quitters.
How did you break your penis, Luke?
How did it happen?
It was one of those classic incidents of holding a small dog on your lap, and their food bowl in your hand, thinking this plan isn't going to go wrong.
Right.
And then some kibble falls onto your penis, and the small dog finishes what's in the bowl, realizes there's some kibble on top of your penis, and is like, let's take a bite at that.
Yeah.
And so I have to say, my pants did a pretty good job of stopping any intense damage.
Okay.
But it's still the experience of having a small dog in its mouth just like nip the tip. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for real, dude.
Well, I didn't realize we were actually going to be talking about this and people were going to hear about it. But that is a real thing that happened to me today.
So follow-up question to that, if you don't mind, Adam.
Yeah, please.
What kind of pants do you wear?
I actually have no idea what kind of pants these are. These are just like, okay, I'll show you. I think I can show you.
Yeah, show them off. Show those bad boys off.
Just some khakis.
Ooh, looking good.
Those are some khakis.
Those are some hot khakis.
There's the penis. Yeah.
Right along. Yeah. Right along.
For those just listening to us, he just exposed his Johnson to everybody.
I pulled out my full dick.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I just figured, if that ever happens to anybody else when their dog goes for their bits and the kibbles and bits, might be good to just have a reference of what works and what doesn't. So
yeah.
Anyway, thank you for indulging me.
I'll add like a subtitle later. That's the brand.
Nice.
The make, model, and size of pant that I wear.
It'll be in the description on YouTube. So
scroll down.
The Nissan Altima 2015
XL.
Of course.
What's going on with you, Lanson? Any crazy penis stories or anything else?
Yeah, bonus points if the story is about your penis.
Yeah, not since NAMM, dude. So we're doing pretty good thus far. No, dude, it's been pretty chill. Nothing too crazy. Just had a kid, so that's been good. But yeah, nothing too crazy.
And how is Lolita?
Lolita's good. Yeah, she's getting strong. We're getting her on some weightlifting. She's about 2 weeks now, and she's cranking them out. So
she's 2 weeks on weightlifting or 2 weeks old.
Both. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. You got to get them started young.
Absolutely, man.
If you can, just have them cut the umbilical and slide them right on the bench.
I know. I was talking to the missus about that. Which you got to make concessions in marriage. So I was like, okay, that's fine. At least we get the weightlifting in. The umbilical cord, we can have some doctor who went to medical school do it. So, that's all good though.
I mean, marriage is full of little concessions.
Sure.
You get to put the baby on a weightlifting regime. Your wife gets to date Adam.
It's true, I mean, it's a fair trade. It's a very fair trade. And plus, it's a little selfish of me too, because I like Adam. I like to see Adam. I want to know what's going on with that guy.
Fun to have him around, yeah.
So it's really for me. At the end of the day, I feel like sometimes.
And Adam, just to make things even, how are things with you and your penis?
Me and my penis have a really good relationship with each other. We understand each other. We're always on the same wavelength. There are occasions where there's some dissonance.
Happens to the best of us.
It's excited. It wants to be free. I'm at work teaching a class. It's sometimes there doesn't work there, but
You wear basketball shorts to the class presentation. You have to bring up the folder. We've been there. We know what's up.
Thank goodness there's that podium I can stand behind.
Yeah.
It's on wheels though, so it kind of pushes out a little bit as things start escalating.
It's on wheels, so he's got to hold it in place, which makes the situation worse because he's jamming that corner of the podium in.
I'm just imagining as well, just it's got that nobody's put any WD-40 on the wheel, so it's just
so as you can see by our sales projections,
everything's coming to a head.
Coming to a head. That was good.
Thanks,
good,
bro.
I like
Appreciate
that. Yeah,
good bit.
All right, well, it's funny we started this way. It really is, because I was like, I want to get a little naughty with this episode. Ooh. But everybody was feeling that, which is great. We're going to dive into our first controversial movie opinion. Again, I'm just going to throw these out there. We'll talk about them for a few minutes, give our hot takes, and then we'll move on to the next one. So this controversial movie opinion, I don't want to do any plagiarism here, so I'll give the handle. It was by Minty Banana.
Ooh.
_
Funny that their name is Minty Banana after our last conversation.
This is
now
all
that we know how Adam eats his bananas.
Gotta squish him. I'm not the weird one here. All right.
What, did you mush it?
Bananas mush. That wasn't a weird thing to say.
He's
I
like,
stand by that.
But when you say you split a banana, like, how do you anyway, sorry, we're running in circles here.
He's a classic salt and pepper banana kind of guy.
Let me know if you've had enough banana on your meal.
Tell me when.
Come on.
Jeez.
Oh, sorry, Adam. Getting off topic here.
Minty banana is what we should be talking about right now. Underscore. So they had a controversial movie opinion.
Yes.
I'll tell you it, and then I'll kind of give you my thoughts on it to start out, and then we'll jump in. 90% of sex scenes in movies are unnecessary, is what they said. Now, I think this is a really interesting topic, talking about sex scenes, because I feel like when you're really young and you're watching movies with your family, it's super uncomfortable and you hate those scenes. You get a little bit older, they get a little bit more exciting once you like have some hormones in your body doing some stuff. But I don't know, because
famously children have no hormones.
Just none.
True.
They're like, this isn't doing anything. This is just disgusting.
They're like some plain non-flavored yogurt.
Yeah, pretty much.
They're just like
unflavored
never
yogurt.
Mind. I'm not gonna go down that thread, but I think this is a valid controversial opinion. So what are you guys' thoughts? Do you feel the same way? Do you think there's a lot of sex scenes that are necessary? What are your thoughts there?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is just a big question because there's a lot to that. I'm actually, I think I agree with this to an extent. I think, I will point out that like how the sex scene is filmed, I think does and says a lot. I think there's a trend I've noticed recently where like, well, maybe not recently, but in some of the movies I've watched, I've noticed that like there is something really interesting about a sex scene where the focus is a guy in the sex scene, because for so long Hollywood's always been like not great towards women. There's a lot of movies that are very exploitative towards girls, and the guy doesn't even have to like show their butt or anything.
Right.
And I feel like there's something very like there's something to me that's a very valid artistic statement when you have a sex scene where the guy has to be more vulnerable than the girl, if that makes any sense. But like at the same time, it's like I really do think it depends on how you film it, what you're trying to say with the scene. And more than anything, I think the collaborative process of how the scene was made is really important, you know, where it's like, I think there are movies that have like really intense sex scenes, but from a collaborative standpoint, everybody was on board. Everybody knew what the scene meant. I mean, like, famously, Margot Robbie in The Wolf of Wall Street actually asked for her, for the sex scene, for her to be nude during the sex scene, which was like, you know, she wasn't really known at the time. That was a really bold choice, but she felt like it was the correct move for the character. So like, I really do think it depends on the creative vision at play. And I'm not always going to act, I don't want to act like Hi, I'm Maddie, like all sex scenes suck. But I don't think this person, Minty Banana, is inherently wrong. I think there's a lot of sex scenes I watch and I'm like, don't like that happened. Feels out of place. Took me out of the moment. So I really do think it depends on the scene. But I won't say that they're wrong. I don't know.
All right.
What do you got, Lappin?
Yeah, I think 90%. I think is a little bit. It's a little bit of hyperbole there.
69%.
Correct. That is the correct percentage. But yeah, I do think it definitely depends on the story, because I mean, like, obviously sex is a part of life, you know, so I think that can really be interesting to tell in a story and can be really an interesting way to connect with characters as well, and just kind of see a little bit of the difference and similarities there. But yeah, I think a lot of the time my thing is sometimes it seems a little bit not super to real life. You can kind of tell it's like a Hollywood sex scene. It's not like, okay, this is two people, enjoying each other's company. This is just like almost sometimes can feel like a Michael Bay movie of just like, what's up, babe? Get over here, woman. So, but yeah, I think things are getting better as far as like being like, okay, well, that makes sense to the story. And that makes sense for like two people in real life. But yeah, so I think overall my opinion is I agree with some of that. I don't know that like 90% is quite the figure that I would agree with. But certainly I think they have a point of like saying, hey, like we could be better. There's probably a better way to use that in your storytelling process.
Yeah, I think I kind of feel similarly. There are way too many unnecessary sex scenes in movies. I think be a better way to put it. I'm not against them. I'm not against nudity in movies. I'm not against sex movies. Like Lanson said, I think it's a part of life and it's an important part of relationships and it's an important part of just people individually. But a lot of times sex scenes are used to just appeal to the gross audience who just wants to see some boobies on screen. And you can tell the difference between a movie that's doing that or a movie that's using it. I think The Wolf of Wall Street is an interesting example because because I feel that one is like both for me. I feel like there's some scenes that it feels really necessary, and then some scenes where it's very excessive, but the whole movie is about being excessive. So that's a really tough one for me because I feel like it's like, yeah, that's the point of the movie. But at the same time, you're still watching it and you still just watched like 40 minutes straight of, nudity. So I don't know. But
to be like fair to this conversation, I should point out I haven't seen The Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh, cool.
I'm going completely off of stuff that like I read, like interviews with Margot Robbie and stuff where I was like, oh, interesting. I would have thought she's a young actress and Scorsese was like, here's what you got to do to get this part. But apparently that was her call.
I think the big scene with Margot Robbie having that, I think that was a good, I'm trying to find the best way to say this. I don't think that was an example of an unnecessary
big fan of
thing.
that choice. Adam
choice.
loves that choice. He loves
Thanks,
it a
Margot.
lot.
She should have won an Oscar. Come on, man. Dedication.
You do see a lot of, this is a side note, you see a lot of DiCaprio butt though, I have to say. There he, if you're into
not
that,
enough for my taste.
Could have been more. Could have been more
In The Revenant. That's all I'm saying. That bear attack, maybe the pants come off. I don't know.
I gotta say, in The Revenant, I think Leo did every humanly possible thing to try and get an Oscar, except for show his dick. And we shouldn't have given it to him. We should have waited. We should have waited until he
held out.
Really wanted it.
Yep.
So I don't know. I don't know if I can say much more than you guys did, but I think there's a place for it. But yeah, it is overused
for sure.
Yes. Any last thoughts about that before we jump into the next hot take?
No.
Cool. This one, I think some of these talking about movies always makes me feel weird because I never want to feel hoity-toity about them. I don't know anything right. about making movies or the process, especially in this conversation. It's about practical effects. I don't know anything about CGI or practical effects. This person says, I miss practical effects. CGI is too overused and bums me out. Is that something y'all agree with? Do you think there's a place for CGI? Do you think practical effects are always better?
I have a real love for practical effects, and I'll say this outright. If I'm ever in a chair where I get to make a movie that has a lot of crazy stuff going on, and I get to make the call between doing things practically and doing a lot of CGI, I actually think I will probably elect to do as much practical stuff as I can. What I will say is, like, The debate of this is not nuanced, which is something that can bother me. One, CGI is way cheaper, which means you can do much crazier shit with CGI than you can do with practical effects. And I have an admiration for that, where the director goes, "You're telling me there's no practical way for this guy's head to come out of his own butthole? Well, we're going to go with CGI then." Like, I love the idea of a director going like, "I know what I want, and if CGI is the only way to get it, then I'm going to go with CGI." So I'm not going to knock it entirely. I will also say that the nuance that a lot of people miss in this conversation is there are artists who do practical effects, but there are artists who do CGI. People slave over this stuff, going frame by frame, trying to make it look as good as they can. I mean, interesting. I just read recently, I've only seen the movie once. I haven't seen it since this happened, but apparently they were still doing updates to the CGI in Spider-Man No Way Home, and they swapped out versions of the movie in the middle of the theatrical run. So they had the first version, somebody wasn't happy with some of the CGI, kept working on it, and then they swapped in the new version with the updated CGI. Like, people work hard, talented people work hard, and I feel like this conversation isn't a lot of fun because at the end of the day, there's a lot of very cool, very talented people that work on a movie, and for you to just like with a hand wave away like the incredibly talented artists who work on computer generated effects, for you to just wave away their contribution to film is messed up, and I don't care for it. So I think there's room for both, and I really I do tend to be a little bit like, I wish there'd been a little less CG in that or this, that, or the other. I'm really in love with when a movie can find a balance between the two. Since you want us to get into some of our controversial movie opinions, I'm going to say something very positive about the movie Prometheus, which is not a movie people like. But I think Prometheus might be the perfect blend of practical effects and CGI. The effects in that movie are astounding. They're so good, particularly the creature effects. And so I'm going to controversial opinion. If you were to ask me what the perfect blend between practical and CG is, I might actually say the movie Prometheus, which is not a very well liked movie. There are others that obviously do a great job. If you watch like the behind the scenes about Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, they do like an extended feature about the mouth of Sauron, that super creepy guy who only shows up in the extended edition. And they talk about how like he was creepy, but he wasn't quite creepy enough. So they went in with CG and they made his mouth like 20% bigger. And it just put it over the edge of making him the perfect amount of creepy. And it's just like cool stuff like that, where you start with something that's right there, and then you go in with a very talented CG artist, and you just do that extra little 5% to push it over the line and make it incredible. So I think this particular controversial take is a little broke. Could be more woke.
I like it. Brought up a lot of good points. What about you,
Did
Lance?
I leave you guys anything to talk about?
You left the well a little dry, but
we shall see.
Lansing can pull something out of nothing. He's a magician.
right.
He's gonna pull his own head out of his butthole. No CGI required.
No CGI, practical effects. But yeah, I think that's a really good point, Luke, because sometimes that conversation can be like, oh, well, CGI is kind of like, that's the shortcut. That's the easy way to do it. You just kind of like just put stuff into a computer and then bing, bang, boom, you're good and on your way. So I think that's a good point to bring up and understand that it's, it's hard work either way to make a movie using either avenue of effects. I think I would agree. I'm usually more somebody that does like practical effects. I think kind of comparing something that just is in my mind to two series like the Lord of the Rings versus the Hobbit movies. I think I prefer just kind of the mixture of the practical effects with the CGI of Lord of the Rings. Not that like, you go back and watch the CGI and it's perfect, but I think a little bit. It can be a little bit too much at times when you're using too much CGI, and kind of takes me personally out of the movie. But I think a lot of it, I think, just comes down to the director and their vision, and having that be concise. So I think if you have that down, then either one can work. But I think at the end of the day, I would prefer probably a combination, a little bit more practical effects, and a good combination of CGI would probably be my take on that.
Great. Awesome. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I think one thing I wanted to point out that both of you kind of touched on too, but I think I don't know anything about anything. I kind of want to quote a YouTube channel called the Corridor Crew that I watch a lot. They're kind of like special effects artists talking about special effects in movies. Anyways, they mentioned that no practical effects really look that good without CGI. So it's like you can't have 100%. I mean, they did back in the day, but like new movies that have 100%, practical effects would pretty much look like shit. You have to have the CGI to touch it up to make it work for the movie. So I think there's definitely something to be said there that I'm not qualified to make that point, but quoting the other people who are, I think that's true. One of my favorite movies is Mad Max Fury Road, and that to me is like the perfect blend, kind of like your Prometheus, Luke, where it's like it's known for being very, very practical, but there is like a 15% of the movie and things that are pretty obviously CGI too that you can tell, but at the same time it just works. It's a beautiful movie. It feels so gritty because of the practical effects. Anything Christopher Nolan does is pretty practical. I mean, I think just some directors really get the balance. Where I really get bummed out by CGI stuff, a really good recent movie that was a Marvel movie was Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but really you have.
Great. It's good.
This is a semi-spoiler. I won't get into too specifics, but at the end of this movie, well, the beginning of this movie is a really great family drama with some awesome action set pieces, there's some magic in there for sure to kind of like brighten up the world a little bit. But then the end just kind of has this huge CGI clusterfuck, and it was not my favorite thing in the world, and it kind of bummed me out. And I think, again, the CGI, there's definitely an art there. There's movies that are totally CGI. I'm thinking like Avatar, that one Jungle Book movie. I think that those are beautiful movies that like are CGI and it's art. But I think some movies, they're like, when they're writing the script, they're like, well, because we can have two big dragons doing this thing and we could spend a lot of time and there could be this cloud of energy, and because we can do that, we should do that. I just don't think CGI is always the right choice, and sometimes it makes movies bigger than they really need to be. Marvel movies do this a lot. DC movies, like superhero movies, do this a lot, where it could be a smaller scale movie, but they're like, you know what, we have some money, we have some CGI, let's all over the screen. So that's kind of where it disappoints me a little bit. And I think it's because of the CGI, where my mind just kind of disconnects. I'm like, okay, this is disconnected from reality enough. I can't connect to this anymore. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts about it. I think there needs to be a good blend in order for it to work, but it can be used not right.
Yeah. And I do think that there can be like and this almost goes back to what we were saying about like sex scenes, but like there's a tonal mismatch sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Where for you, the expectation in Shang-Chi was that it was going to be like really grounded and a lot of practical fight scenes. And then for the end to be like a CGI fest felt incongruent to you. Whereas something like Guardians of the Galaxy, the CG is so baked into it from frame one that you like,
it just works.
Don't even notice.
Yeah.
So I like, there is like a tonal thing to be said
Definitely.
here too. Sometimes it's tonally correct for your movie to be CGI from beginning to end. Sometimes it's tonally incorrect to use CGI for anything other than like touching up your practical stuff. I think it comes down to the movie you're trying to make.
It's a very good point. Very good point. Any other thoughts? I have another one that I'm excited to talk about.
If you're excited, let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's
go for it.
I think I want to hear your thoughts before I really give mine on this. So I'll say it.
Here we go.
I'll throw the ball in y'all's park, and I'll pick up the pieces after. I'm actually gonna. So this I forgot to. It's already gone. All right, but the handle of this person, I didn't do that for the last one, is Arseny, spelt really weird. And the first part is something we can touch on, but I really want to talk about the second part. So they said The Shining is a shit movie, not scary at all. I fucking died slowly watching it. Jack Nicholson's acting was to horror what Jim Carrey is to comedy, completely over the top and just ridiculous. This is a pretty controversial opinion, I think. We can talk about The Shining if you want, but I'm really interested in Jack Nicholson's acting, also Jim Carrey's acting, how we feel about that. Was it over the top? But I don't know. That's a conversation I like. So what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Bold move in both statements, I think, is probably my initial reaction to that. So as far as like speaking specifically of Jack Nicholson's acting in that movie, I don't know that that's a completely fair comparison to be like, yeah, well, like Jim Carrey to comedy and this guy to horror. Yeah. I think my biggest gripe with Jack Nicholson's character in The Shining is that, and I haven't read The Shining, but I know in the book, the dad is he's more of a likable character, whereas from like the get-go in the movie, like you're like, this guy sucks. Like, I don't like this dude. So I guess my gripe is like, I thought it would have been a more interesting movie if it was like, yeah, he's a loving family man that, you know, got the ghosties in him and, you know, went mad and
like you do,
when you're in Colorado, you know, get the ghosties while you're at a hotel.
Yeah. It's a classic case of ghost jumping in you.
Yeah.
Oh crap, what was I saying? But yeah, like I think it would have been a much more interesting and compelling kind of tragedy if it was like this guy who was like a likable, lovely family man that, you know, just eventually went crazy. I think that's one of my gripes with The Shining. But I don't know. I think for the story and what Kubrick was going for with that, I think Nicholson did pretty well. You know, I think he did the character that the director had in mind. I think The Shining sometimes can kind of get into this folklore sort of atmosphere where it's like, well, maybe it's not. Maybe let's get back to reality a little bit. Like, it's a good movie, but like, you know, it's maybe not that good, you know? So yeah. So in a long-winded way, I would say I would disagree. I think it would have been a more interesting movie for the reasons I listed, but I think Nicholson did a good job with what he was asked to do.
If I'm going to put in my 2 cents, let me preface all of it by saying you are absolutely free to criticize The Shining. It's not a perfect movie. I'm going to defend it a little, which is why I'm clarifying. Great. I do not think it's a perfect movie.
Yeah.
Also, Stanley Kubrick, real piece of shit for giving Jack Nicholson free reign over his character, but being a manipulative dick to Shelley Duvall. And Shelley Duvall, right, by the way, in that movie gives what might be a perfect performance.
Yeah.
And I do not credit any of that to Stanley Kubrick. That is all her. So it's like, absolutely things you can criticize about this movie. And when people bring up the point of like, I believe that Jack Nicholson would kill his family from the first frame of the movie, part of me is like, you have the point in the palm of your hand and you're still not getting it. If I were to, but at the same time, everybody's allowed to interpret the movie their own way. So my way is correct for me. Your way is correct for you. If you think the movie's shit, you're allowed to think that. What I will say is that for me, the emotions that it evokes in me are like very specific in this like category of, it's not a movie about ghosts. It's a movie about like the terror. This is going to get so serious, and I'm sorry. We are very, if you couldn't tell from the beginning of this podcast, we like being silly, but then you ask me for my genuine opinion and it gets a little too serious, a little too fast. But like for me at the center, it's a movie about the horror of domestic abuse and the idea that this guy is a monster, but fools society into thinking he isn't. This idea that this guy interviews, everybody's like, this is a normal, likable guy, let's give him the job. And then, you know, come the spring when he's killed his family, it's going to be a story about how the hotel drove him insane, instead of, you know, covering up the horrible truth that that's just who he was. And Lanson makes a great point. I have not read The Shining, but reading it would be a really cool experience, because it is a story about a good man succumbing to you know, to like the devil inside of him. I think that's a relatable thing for all of us. We all have, you know, the devil and angel on our shoulders. And if you have a haunted hotel in the mix, a for sure haunted hotel in the book, the movie's more vague, but in the book, it's for sure haunted. Like, how does that tip the scales? I do think that's a really cool story. And when I read it, I think I will be enthralled by that concept. But I will say that I think what I get out of this movie is the terror of a monster hiding in plain sight, a monster that can blame a haunted hotel, you know? I mean, there's a lot to be said about this, but like the scenes in that movie that like really hold me down and make me scared aren't when he's, you know, here's Johnnying through like the doorway. I think the scene I find scariest in that movie is like when Danny comes and wakes him up and he picks up Danny and is holding him in his lap. And they're having this conversation of like, you know, I would never do anything to hurt you, right, Danny? And you're like, for fuck, he's going to hurt him. Like, so I, for me, weighing in like how I interpret the movie, I think his performance could be more nuanced, but it's kind of the interesting statement of like putting something in the face of the audience and then seeing whether or not the audience accepts it, if that makes any sense. And there's something about that I appreciate. The fact that they're making it glaringly obvious from frame one, this guy is the bad guy, and then they're still going to wait and see if the audience roots for him. That being said, Stanley Kubrick is not infallible. I think he did a good job making some movies, but I'll step up to bat for the movie a bit and say it is really good, I think. But also, if you hate it because there's no nuance in his performance, you're correct. There is no nuance in his performance. So, two sides to that coin.
What about you, Senor Hueso? What you got?
Yeah, here's what I got. I don't know. Again, kind of left, you know, I kind of feel a little bit of both. I think The Shining is a movie that's like, oh, it's the best horror movie. It's the golden standard. I don't think it is. I think it's a good movie. I like it. Like I don't dislike it at all. But I think that you know, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. That's where I stand on The Shining. I think that what's interesting to me, I think I kind of get, I'll say that really hard. I kind of get, not that I agree with, I kind of get what Arseny is saying here, because I think Jack Nicholson is one of those guys who, it's not like I've seen a ton of his movies. I've seen him in The Shining. I've seen him in The Departed. I don't know. But it seems like he's kind of got the shtick where he's like very facial and he's very creepy in both those movies. I love him in The Departed even more than I love him in The Shining. I love that. It's one of my favorite movies anyways. But I think the fact that they compare him to Jim Carrey is just kind of funny.
We didn't even get into the Jim Carrey.
It's fine. I'll get into it. This is my controversial take. I really don't like Jim Carrey. His comedies don't really do it for me. I think he's too over the top. I don't know. I've just never really enjoyed him that much. The only movie I really enjoyed him in, he was very subdued and he was not like himself. He was very pulled back and internal. I think, I just haven't enjoyed Jim Carrey in most of the things he's done. But I can kind of see some similarities with both kind of how they act. They're very physical, very facial. I kind of see the comparison. I don't think to say that he is to this genre what this person is to this genre, that's a little dramatic, but the comparison kind of made me chuckle because I was like, I kind of see it. I don't know. They kind of are similar actors in two totally different genres. But yeah, that's my controversial take on it. I think Jim Carrey is just not my favorite. I think he's a little much in most things he's in. But what do you guys think about Jim Carrey? We could throw it that way.
I feel like it's that conversation of two sides of the same coin, where he is for sure too much, and that either works for you or it doesn't. And that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I think I'm not going to go to bat for all of his movies.
For sure, yeah.
But I mean, like Dumb and Dumber, I love.
It's a funny movie. Yeah,
I feel like sometimes it works. I will also point out that he's actually just a really good actor because he's proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that he's not just the one thing. So I think when you talk about Jim Carrey, you're talking about a much wider thing than you think you are.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think, he's definitely not for me. Like, I like some of his movies. I like him in The Grinch. I thought that was a pretty funny one. You know, I felt like that kind of matched his repertoire a little bit better than some of his other movies. But yeah, I mean, just not my favorite.
Cool.
Yeah, that person's right. Adam is right. He's too much, and it either works or it doesn't. We'll just say that.
There you go.
Cool. I think that those were all the topics I wanted to point out. I think as we're kind of closing up, I thought there was some really good conversation. I'd love to do something like this again, and we will do something like this again next month. But let's kind of end by just throwing out some really quick hot takes of our own. We don't have to delve too deep into it, but just some what do we think are our movie controversies? Something that we stick to and we defend anytime it gets brought up. A couple of them have already been brought up, but are there any quick ones?
Okay. I'll bring up something that I was talking about with somebody earlier today.
Nice.
My hot take is there's nothing wrong with a fan service movie, but there is something wrong with the reaction to it at times, if that makes any sense. Specifically, this will get heavy into spoilers if you haven't seen Spider-Man No Way Home. Spider-Man No Way Home was fan service from beginning to end. And I thought it was fantastic. I loved it. I do have some gripes with the movie. It's not perfect. We don't need to get super into detail here. But specifically, I loved, like, I nearly leapt out of my seat when Matt Murdock showed up. You know, like, I was
Matt Burbank.
I almost texted you that, Lanson, for real.
Heck
from the movie theater.
Yeah.
But I almost jumped out of my seat when I saw him because it was so good to see him again.
Absolutely.
Seeing Andrew and Toby, I loved. So there's nothing wrong with a fan service movie. What I have a gripe with is fan service movies seem to make fans entitled, right? Where Marvel fucking moved a mountain to get 3 Spider-Mans in the same movie to show their fans and be like, you guys, isn't this cool? And then the fans went, great, now give us Spider-Man 4, The Amazing Spider-Man 3. We want Toby and Doctor Strange 2. And it's like, for fuck's, just enjoy that you got the thing. Don't ask for more.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel like fan service, again, two sides of a coin. I love a good fan service movie. I hate how entitled fans are after the movie comes out.
Yeah.
And so, like, That's something I was talking about with somebody earlier today. What's your guys' take on fan service, fan entitlement? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think, it's fun to have a fan service movie, and I don't have anything against that. It's not like I'm above that, I was genuinely really, really happy, and really it just felt like a fun movie watching the newest Spider-Man. But yeah, I definitely get that. There can kind of be like, you know what? Like, it's kind of like the kid that gets everything they want for their birthday, and then they're like, well, what about this? It's like, just be grateful. You got some good stuff. Just be grateful.
Like in Harry Potter, but he's like, there's 37 presents. Last year there was 36 or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think a little bit more gratitude could go a long way with fans of just being like, that was so cool. Like, that's awesome. And that's cool that all of us, since we're fans, we got to like connect over that and have like a bonding experience over that. So yeah, that would probably be my take of like, I like fan service movies, but just be grateful for them.
What about you, Adam?
No, I agree. I don't have much to add to that. I think the culture is pretty entitled, but sometimes, not every time, but sometimes the fan service movies are good. So I'm kind of with you.
Well, and like fans can move mountains in really cool ways. I mean, in the past few years, right? Like fans talked about a Spider-Verse style third movie for Tom Holland so much that Marvel was like, yeah, let's just do it.
Let's go for it.
Friggin' Sonic the Hedgehog released a trailer with a sleep paralysis demon Sonic. The fans said no, and the studio said, okay, let's scratch it, start a new design. And the design they went with was rad, and the movie was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it. And like fans literally were like, it's like that John Mulaney bit. They were doing that thing with Warner Brothers. We're like, excuse me, about a Zack Snyder cut of Justice League for so long. Yeah. And Warner Brothers was like, fine, have it.
Take it.
So like fans obviously have power, but it's like, I can't help but be like, having power is cool and all, but also just like be grateful for what you get. Don't immediately turn around and go, thank you, I would also like this. Like, just one thing at a time, guys.
Great power comes great responsibility.
Ooh, truer words have never been spoken. Lanson, what's your controversial opinion that you just kind of hold on to and
I make sure I say behind closed doors? I'm just like, okay,
gotta look around.
Just Leonardo DiCaprio should have won the Oscar after showing his dick.
He didn't earn it. He hasn't earned it yet. To this day.
Didn't earn it.
I know my whole I like pineapple on pizza sort of a confession, like, which I actually do. To all you haters out there on the internet, I like it. But yeah, I think it's a good question, man. I say this with a grain of salt, because like I obviously respect, that it was innovative and that it did a lot for movies in itself and how you make them. But I wasn't too big of a fan of Avatar, and I think it's kind of ridiculous that there's like 5 coming down the pike. It's like James Cameron's ego just going like, let's give the people what they want. We never asked for this. You're going to get it, is kind of the way that I feel about it.
Here's a controversial opinion within a controversial opinion.
Yes, go ahead.
I don't think that those movies are actually getting made. I think James Cameron is just saying that. He's like, if we get the buzz going, the studio will say yes.
There you go. Okay. Yeah, I could see that. But yeah, I feel like obviously, yes, there was a lot of really, really cool things. And I do really want to give respect to the people that worked on that movie, because obviously, it looks phenomenal and it's amazing in that aspect. But, I'm like, I've watched Fern Gully, guys. Like, I know this movie.
This is Fern Gully, but horny.
I know. I'm like, I don't know how to feel about this. Got to go back and watch Fern Gully. But anyway, that's just kind of my thing. I'm not a huge Avatar fan.
Adam, do you got like a really deadly one loaded in the chamber for us?
I got one. I don't know how deadly it is because I feel like this is a polarizing topic. I don't feel like it's which is controversial. But I'm saying I feel like I'm not in the minority, but I'm also I don't know. I get different reactions. I don't think Keanu Reeves is a good actor at all. I think he's
You
not
brought
great.
this up on our podcast before, and Lanson and I both jumped on you. We were like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa!"
Bro, you can't talk about John Wick like that.
This is updated though because I just watched Speed for the first time, and
Ooh.
it's just another wooden performance where he's like, "Oh my gosh, we gotta." my Keanu Reeves impression was a lot better the other day. Suck it today. I'm like, oh man,
when I was doing it for my other friends, it was amazing.
Trust me, it was really good after I watched the movie.
But
It's
yeah, it
just-
was a lot more convincing than that.
Dude.
I can see it, George.
Again, controversial. Totally, everyone
Yeah.
entitled their opinion.
Sure.
My opinion is, dude had no personality. He was
Yeah.
really wooden. Everybody around him, like Sandra Bullock, Jeff Daniels, were all like had personality. And we're like, Keanu. And Keanu was just like, oh, we gotta stop the bus. Not
Yeah.
great. I love him. I don't
Yeah, for
hate
sure.
him in movies. I love
Right.
John Wick. Don't even get me wrong, but I just never want to see the guy, have to try to cry on camera or have to. I just don't think he's that kind of actor. I think he's an action hero. He's really good at stunts. He's an amazing person in real life, really wholesome dude. I don't think he's that believable or that great in most of the stuff he does. So
okay. Here's what I will say is being an actor, I'm going to say this with confidence as if I'm an actor that anybody would recognize. But I have acted. I've done things you can find.
Samesies.
But what I will say is like something that drives me sometimes when people talk about acting, I feel like they have this idea in their head of what acting is, and they don't realize how multifaceted it is, if that makes any sense. Where it's like, I had a conversation with somebody. I don't think it was somebody on this podcast, but it might have been, and I'm just forgetting. We're going back to Shang-Chi, the movie we mentioned earlier. I don't know how to say his name. Simu Liu?
Simi Liu. I just watched him on Hot Ones. I forget. Sorry.
I am so
Liu.
sorry to that
Yeah.
guy because he's awesome.
He's amazing.
But I spoke with somebody once who disparaged his performance in Shang-Chi. They weren't super impressed by it. And I was like, he learned martial arts for that movie.
Right.
To say that his performance is anything less than stunning feels like an uninformed opinion to me. So it's just like one of those things where it's like so many things go into an acting performance that I think it's very valid to say Keanu Reeves is a phenomenal actor with anything physical.
Yeah.
And he really does have like that action cool guy thing down of like composure, grace under pressure. To say that I seek him out for like a hard-hitting emotional drama where he's like crying every other scene and doing an Irish accent or something, that isn't what I want to see him in, because the acting I'm impressed by is his physical dedication and his prowess as an action movie star. So I feel like there are multiple things you can appreciate about an actor. And I actually do think one can ruin the other, since we're talking about the fabulous Matt Burbank. My little nephew, I say little, he's like 17. No, I'm kidding. He's not that old.
He's like 37.
He's like 72. He's not that old, but he's a teenager now. So his mom decided that he could watch the Netflix Marvel shows.
Yeah.
And for some reason, he decided to start with Iron Fist.
Oh, geez.
So we had a couple conversations. I watched like an episode with him, and I did see season 1 of Iron Fist so I could watch Defenders. And I was like, oh God, I'm not watching another frame of that show. And here's the thing. I don't know who the guy who plays Iron Fist is. Not a bad actor, but he is so bad at the physicality of that role that the entire performance is tainted. Every fight scene he's in, he looks like a white kid that half-assed watching a karate video in his basement. And it affects the rest of his performance. When he's like, like when he walks into I think there's a scene where he walks into a dojo and he's like lecturing the students on their form. I'm like, motherfucker, you look like if Slender Man decided to take a jazzercise course. Like, you got no legs to stand on. So it's like, to say that a person is a bad actor purely because of the deep emotional this, that, or the other, without taking into account like the physicality and the work they do there, I don't think that's fair. I think they really do go hand in hand, and one can genuinely ruin the other.
What I'm proposing is that one on Keanu Reeves' side does take me out of the movie a lot. I think his acting with the characters, I'm like, wow, that's not believable. Amazing stunt work, amazing physicality, but it does take me out of the movie. So I think they do go hand in hand. He's a great actor. He's a great physical actor, but I think anytime he says any lines, it never works for me. I would say like 90% of the time. Plus, have you guys seen?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, good.
I was just going to say, again, we're talking about two sides of the same coin. The best actors will have both. But if an actor maybe isn't solid on one, it will take you out of the movie. Like we were talking about, like, what's his name from Iron Fist? He's a passable actor on one side, completely lacks the physicality the character needs. So I don't buy him as the character. Yeah. There are plenty of people who probably do buy him as the character. Yeah. One side of Keanu's performance isn't landing for you, even though the other side is. So you don't quite buy him. Like I said, two sides of the same coin. And it's going to be incredibly subjective whether you buy him or not. I'll go to bat for Keanu Reeves because I buy him as the badass dude. I don't buy him in like, what's the movie? The Lake House.
The Lake House.
See, I was just gonna bring that up. I was like, have you seen The Lake House? What a movie! What a ride!
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, I do love. He was in that Netflix movie "Always Be My Maybe," where he plays himself, but he's kind of a dick.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that.
I saw that a little bit.
Like, it's very much his acting, but there's something about it that he sells, and it's funny. It's really funny.
Oh, it's a good time.
But yeah, so like I don't care about the Lake House. Like I want to see him be the badass guy who does these one take fight scenes. So it really is, I think, two sides of the same coin. Like an actor has to try to work on both. And if you don't buy one, it's fair that you're pulled out of the movie, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree.
Great takes.
Yeah.
Do you have something to say, Lanson?
You got something to say over there?
You got something to say to me, boy?
You gonna start shit?
You gonna start chirping? Hold my spitter. But yeah, I definitely think Keanu Reeves has a lane that he does very well in. And much respect to him in the John Wick movies for definitely putting in the work and learning martial arts. And, cool to see, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in action movies. Like it's nice to see where it's not the Steven Seagal, Chuck Norris-esque movies of like, let me just give you a half-baked roundhouse kick and hopefully that'll, American stuff.
Like Steven Seagal style of like kind of grabbing somebody's hand and then they do a full front flip through a table.
Yeah, Aikido. I tell you what. Which is, I'm sure Aikido is a legitimate martial art. I don't want to like throw that out to all you Aikido people that listen to this podcast, but
all two of you.
It's a keto diet. You see, when you do the Aikido diet, you become superior to everybody else.
You just touch things and they fly away.
When you do the Aikido diet, you end up looking like Steven Seagal.
Which is good. Which is what you want to do.
Steven Seagal.
Modern day. Shoot. But yeah, I think a good example for me, or at least in my opinion, is a good example is in Black Panther. I think Chadwick Boseman really nails it with the physicality and the acting. And obviously, like, Michael B. Jordan is a great actor. I just thought in that movie he oversold the villain a little bit, so that kind of took me out of it. But definitely was great physically.
This is the first time I've heard you criticize anything about Black Panther.
Dude, I love that movie so much. But yeah, so I guess that would be my example. My little thing to share at this class presentation, I too. Thank you, Lanson. Nice to hear from the little brother. Yeah, guys.
Lanson, you're more than a little brother. You're a big brother. Yeah. You're the biggest brother I've seen.
You're our step brother.
Oh,
what are you doing, step brother?
I'm looking at Hoots and Bone.
Are our screens gonna get stuck? Oh no!
I think they might freeze. Also, this is a side tangent, but I just realized Hoots and Bone. That needs to be like a freaking buddy adventure series. Hoots and Bone.
We were talking about this pre-recording, but I would pay an unholy amount of money to do like a buddy travel movie with you guys. I don't know what it would be, but it'd be fun.
Be a good time.
Well, gentlemen, that is the end of the episode. Went a little longer than we had discussed before, but it was a great time. I didn't want to end any of it. It's all delicious. It's all just so good.
Delicious content.
I can't wait to go to sleep to our voices, and I hope you do too. Hit us up with your controversial takes, your controversial movie opinions. You can find us on YouTube. What's the YouTube? Just Final Boy Status is it's under qualified?
Yeah, we're on the underqualified Idiocracy media page. We are working on creating our own channel and uploading the backlog there. I don't, by the time this episode comes out, I don't know how far that process will be. But yeah, we are going to do a channel that's just Final Boy Status for you hardcore fans out there that are frustrated we're on a different channel.
Right. Yeah. So you can find us. Just keep listening. Got a good backlog of this is our podcast, but where we do our thing where we talk about horror movies, which gets me very excited. But this was fun today, guys. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, I had a good time.
Good times. Had them all.
Any last minute plugs?
I love you.
Plug.
Keep an eye on my Twitter at Luke Haueter, LukeHaueter. I got stuff that'll be coming out on YouTube at some point. I have like 3 different videos I'm in the middle of making. We'll see whether or not I actually finish them. And I think I'm allowed to say, I don't think he'll be mad if I bring it up, but I did a stream back in either November or December over on the channel Improv and D&D. I went and played some D&D over there, and we do know for sure that I will be back playing the same character, a continuation of that campaign sometime in February. So if you keep an eye out on my social media, I'll update you guys there, but I will for sure be back on the stream at some point in February.
Nerd.
Why don't if I make one phone call, you'll be on the stream with me, Adam.
I've never done D&D. That's for nerds. I've never done it.
Yeah, bro.
I want to. Somebody genuinely told me they wanted like a Final Boy Status, like survival horror D&D session with the 3 of us, and I'm down.
There you go.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun.
I do like D&D. For
you like D&D, don't you, Adam?
To clarify.
Oh.
Well, you can find me on Twitch. Sometimes I play games there. I haven't been that good at uploading recently. Life's been a little crazy. But yeah, indiadambones on Twitch. I play some scary games sometimes. I play some not scary games sometimes. I always talk about movies, though, because that's literally all I think about. So
you can find me at the supermarket.
Which one, though, specifically? Like, let's drop some times
the
and some
Gelson's
addresses
on 5th.
Yes.
I mean,
All
I
of the
Greet
above.
11 a.m.
Yes.
Okay.
he'll be in the frozen chicken aisle.
Yes, I will.
Cool.
Making
Yeah,
a
sounds
delivery.
great.
Handing out free samples.
Nothing funny
Want
about
it?
that. Yeah.
You
Little
want a tie?
hairnet and everything.
It's gonna happen.
Here.
Yeah.
Take a wing.
It'll still be frozen. They'll be like, oh.
You look so thin. Take another thigh.
Come on. Come on. Come on.
All right.
Come
All
on.
right. All right. All right. So anyway,
So, anyways,
Anyway.
thanks for watching. Check us out. Have a good rest of your day. We'll see you.